I'm Seth Anderson. I want to tell you about Loki outerwear and the story of its creation. In 1990, my older brother Dirk Anderson moved back from Florida, where he lived for a year, starting out his medical career, and he was missing mountains, so he came back and said, I want to climb Mount Sneffels, which was near Ouray. It sounded like a nasal problem, but him being my 10-year older brother and having missed him for a whole year, I said, let's do it. So September 1990, we drove up and spent the night in Yankee Boy Basin and got up early in the morning, and it was super cold that morning. And then we started hiking up and got up to Wright Lake and had to ditch layers as we got warm and the day got warm, and we kept climbing and went up the Lavender Couloir, and it started to get colder, and we stopped to put more clothes on. And then we got on the summit, and a blizzard stormed in right on top of the mountain, and we got on the summit and had to put on all our clothes, and we sat there. It was only about 15 minutes, and the weather seemed to clear out, and we changed our clothes again, and we sat there on that summit, and we're so in awe of how pretty it was. It seemed like the European Alps were sitting in Colorado, and we vowed to climb all of the 14,000 foot mountains together on that day, and we shook on that we would climb those together. And then on the way down, we had to change our clothes some more, and we started formulating ideas of how to make clothing, initially with an idea for a hat that would change with the weather, so we wouldn't have to stop and take our clothes off and put new stuff on. So we started with the Loki hat. We went home that night and sewed up a couple neck gaiter hats, I think 3 of them at least, out of fleece, and they were just neck gaiter hats. That was a design that was already kind of out there at that time, and we said, this is good, but we still need other things with it. We'd like to be able to cover our whole face, have it be able to vent would be ideal, have it be able to be a neck gaiter, but the main thing being a hat and a vent and being able to cover your face. So we set off and challenged each other and tried a lot of different designs, and we arrived at the Loki hat. It was a night in 1996. I just took a neck gaiter hat and put a top on it, and it ended up working and making everything work. Later the neck gaiter came around, and then I started showing those, and it was already selling Loki, mostly neck gaiter hats and a few clothing items every year up until 97. And I met Jess Rigg working at Gladstone's, and he said he wanted to help make it a real company, and he threw in and went for it for 15 years. Fast forward to 98, my brother and I were climbing 14er still, and we were climbing Mount Princeton above Buena Vista in the winter, and we got to near Tigger Peak, and my brother stopped to take his glove off to drink some water, and his glove blew away. I ran and got it before it went over a cliff, but he started thinking, what would be cool is if you could cover your hands with a glove, a mitten instead of a glove, so you can get your hand out the front and adjust your gear, and it stays on your body, it stays warm, and then you can put it back on and it never comes off. And then we started experimenting with mitts and with cinching and zippers across the top, and then arrived at I call the sandwich bag method, but it has a double flap and it closes well. It can work pretty quick once you get used to it. So we made mitts for a while, and quickly started experimenting with fleeces and jackets that have the gloves built right into them. So you can always keep your hands warm to the level that your jacket is keeping you warm. And then we came up with, I keep trying to find ideas of ways to adjust your insulation in one way on your core, And one way I came up with is having a panel in front of your body, and then when you get moving and get hot, you can put it to the back, because usually you have a backpack covering your back anyway, so that would just go to the back and not be covering you. But I moved that part up to the hood and discovered that you can have a fabric laying behind you in the hood, and then just pull it over and have a neck gaiter with the hood up, with it down. It has to be done right, but it's a very simple design, very effective to keep you warmer and keep more of you covered. And then we started showing that around, and Richard Houghton was the son of Larry Houghton, who was the president of Marmot Mountain Works from 1978 to 1983. And Richard had lived in Taiwan, and we started having trouble getting our garments made, and the hats were doing okay, but we started to make clothing, and the local group that was great to work with, Dolores and Lords, with Custom Needle Crafters, didn't want to do production anymore, so we chased it to, at the time it was Phoenix in Provo, Utah, and they did great work with the hats. We tried to make some clothing, but we ended up moving most of our production overseas, and kept some in Salt Lake, and then moved to Denver, and both those places just weren't making it as well as we'd like, and so we ended up making it overseas. Actually cost us more to do that initially, but we started making more clothing and got a patent on the clothing applied for it in 2002, and finally got the patent, some for the mitt, and then later for the neck gaiter in 2008 and in 2010. And then we started experimenting with a backpack design that could come out of a pocket, so it convert initially a vest from the lumbar pocket. You just turn it inside out, and it converts into a backpack. And most companies that have done that have made them just a bag, or maybe a hip belt or a fanny pack, basically. And we made them into a backpack with light little straps. Super handy design. We applied for the patent on that, and got that towards, I think, 2012. We called that the in pack, because you invert it to make it a pack. And we've been making clothing with the mitts and the neck gaiter now since 2002, with 700 jackets and various fleeces, and now we've made almost 30 different styles, from fleeces to sweatshirts up to high-end $500 event alpine shells, but predominantly what sells the best for us are our kind of practical designs. Are what we call our Mountain Hoodie Extreme, is $149, is windproof, water resistant, fuzzy inside, and they're pretty tough and warm, and a balance of warmth. They now are windproof and highly water resistant, and they have the mitts and the neck gaiter. We have our tech hoodie that is $99, and it is breathable, layers under anything you have. It has a real streamlined version of what we call a VersaCuff now. You can get your fingers out, your thumb out, you can text, shoot pictures when your hands are mostly covered. And we also make gloves and the separate access mitts, and we still make our Loki hats, most of which is made overseas, and people often ask about that. And having gone through trying to get things made in the U.S. and moved to where people are good at making things, and there is a far more and consistent infrastructure in Asia, it's easier, and we hit prices that people are willing to pay for our goods. So it's hard to make things in the U.S. We keep trying, and we do make some things, and we do our repairs, and we do our design work and prototypes largely in-house, but production has been a challenge to do. It would make some sense from a logistical standpoint. It could make sense from an economic standpoint for customers that are willing to pay a higher price for U.S. production. But once again, what we've discovered is our designs appeal to a practical person, and usually practical people aren't buying things for status. They usually don't want to pay more than necessary for the convenience of what we offer, of being able to cover your hands and face and have what you need with you. It's great, but to date it's not been a status item, and it hasn't frankly commanded a higher retail price because it's a practical item. So we just have to stay the course with what we're doing for now. Look for the ability to change where production makes sense. We're open to it, but we can't just go out on a limb and hope the customers are going to be willing to pay, $200 to $300 to $400 for an item that they can pay now for $99 to $150. It could literally put us out of business. So we appreciate everyone's desire to do the right thing, but we need people to understand where we're coming from and realize from their own standpoint what they're willing to pay for things. So now it's 2019, and we're continuing to actually kind of streamline both our designs and make them more functional, but easier to make, easier to layer with, easier to function with shorter flaps, and keep our prices friendly. And we do have some future designs we're really looking forward to is designs with that are have sun protection in mind. We started with our new shadow shirts. We may work on some rash guard / snorkel suits that cover your hands, cover your face, as well as your body, and protect you from sun, and a few other iterations. We have more designs, but the more we do and add to things, it adds cost, it adds time, it adds materials, and we can be as innovative as we think we should, but we need customers to be willing to understand what we're doing and also pay more for more function and better quality. And we're trying to ratchet that bar up, but we have to do it with caution and do it appropriately. And with that also in mind, we are trying, ultimately, other companies have recognized that we are actually reducing consumption. If you use our product appropriately, especially our clothing and our jackets, you have less need to buy new gloves or new neck gaiters because they're built into your coat. If you don't lose your coat and you have the right jacket for the right weather, you're good to go. You don't need gloves in your pocket. You don't need to buy gloves. You don't need to lose gloves. You don't need to find your gloves in your drawer in the morning. It saves you time. It saves you money. It saves, frankly, the world from making new things that aren't necessary to make. There's a challenge of how our products fit. It's a challenge to fit everybody perfectly. We probably never will. We strive to fit the most people possible, but some people have longer, shorter arms, have different size bodies and heads and whatnot. So it doesn't work for everyone, and it doesn't work for it to have long sleeves. Some people just don't want that extra fabric there. It can be uncomfortable and a pain, but I feel after wearing it for over 17 years now that it's worth it to me when the weather actually is bad, or when I'm in a position where I need warmer hands and I need a neck gaiter. I've got them, and I don't have to think about it, and I can't lose them. They're ready to go. I think we're helping people in their daily life. We're helping the world consume less, and hopefully we'll help the world consume less and protect them from sun without needing sunscreen. Do a better job making people's lives better. We also want to make people that make our products better, and we actually try to make them simpler and easier to make where possible. And our production largely are well paid relative to what sewers would be paid in the United States in their own economy, and they are good at it. They're skilled. Our stuff is rather challenging to make compared to some. Even every time I make it, it takes me 3 times to get the fabric laid up right and to make it right. So that's a challenge in itself. So we let some things go, like inside pockets and stuff, to trade off the expense and the cost and the time of those to make what we're good at more cost friendly and simple to make, and just better all the way around for everybody involved. So anyway, thanks for hearing about our story of creating Loki with Seth and my brother Dirk Anderson, and a whole lot of people: Sierra Anderson, our niece, Stephen Verdick, Sonia Fleming, and a whole crew of people help us, and Don Chua, formerly with Columbia, and Robert Byrne from Concept 3. Great groups of people that are fantastic to work with. They're trying to do a nice job and help us and help you. So thanks, everybody. Check out LokiGear.com. We'll have more gear coming in, hopefully before fall of 2019 into 2020, and keep trying to come up with new awesome stuff. And you keep trying to be awesome and be cool to people. Everybody works together. We try to make our gear work together. That's what makes it fun. So thanks a bunch. Take care.